What's up, everybody? It's Alan's Movie Talk, back at it again. Just got done watching We Live in Time, so let's talk about it. We Live in Time is a romantic drama centered around the two characters of Alba and Tobias, I believe the name was, played by Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Essentially, it takes place over many years, and it, talks deals with everything in their lives and their time that they were together, and is centered around Florence Pugh's character and her cancer diagnosis. And for me, that's the best thing about this film is the two lead actors, and their relationship and their chemistry with one another. They are two of the best actors in the world right now. So it's really not surprising, that again, their two performances and their chemistry with one another is really the glue that holds together this film for me. And then another thing that this film does really well for me is that it truly feels authentic. It truly feels, like it truly feels rough. It's not overtly romantic in the movie. These two characters are very human. They make human decisions. They make human mistakes. It just feels like a very authentic experience, and there's a lot of story over time that's told in this film. And as a viewer, it makes you, ask yourself the questions that the characters are presented in the film. And I felt like that was a very good experience to have in a type of movie like this. It's a lot of heavy subject matter. There's a lot of seriousness in the plot. That goes along with this type of movie. But there's also levity, and I felt like that is what one of the positive things about this film is that it does a good job balancing some of those heavier themes and heavier discussions with levity and with comedy. And again, I don't want I'm going to probably continue to sing their praises in this film, but that's the one thing about these lead actors is they do such a good job with that balance in this film. The story also plays out in a non-linear fashion. It kind of jumps back and forth between all of the years that they have been together. And I felt like that was an interesting way to tell this story, because it kind of starts off immediately letting that Florence Pugh's character is sick. And that's kind of the catalyst of the story and what drives things forward. So, in that way that they told the story, it allows you to learn certain details about the characters and about their motivations in a way, that you wouldn't have really gotten if this was told in a straightforward, linear way. So, and like I said, from the story and the actors in general, like I said, very heavy themes and very heavy questions that you ask yourself throughout this film. But then also some very good moments of humor and levity. And it just does a really good job with that balance. Because a lot of people have said that they've cried during this movie. And, it's definitely a movie that will tug at your heartstrings, but it also is a very funny film and allows for a balance to be had there. And I think that is definitely one of the strongest things about this film is that, it doesn't just entirely focus on the heavier and sadder themes of this film. It also, allows you to breathe and have some laughs, just like life in general is. So, and that kind of ties back with what I said about this feeling like an authentic human experience movie. It doesn't feel fake, and it's really, again, the two lead actors are to thank for that because they make it feel authentic and make it feel real. And then from a technical aspect, this film is shot very beautifully. The score I think is very well done and fits with the scenes that they play in and the moments that they're having. So from just a technical aspect all around, I felt like it was a beautifully shot film. Score was very good. Don't really have a lot of complaints when it comes to the technical aspects of the film. For me too, I really think that whether or not you have a significant other, or whether or not you have children is really going to determine how much you can relate and enjoy this film. For me, I do have a wife, I do have children, so this movie really did relate to me on a lot of levels. There's a lot of questions that are brought up that I really did relate to, and it did tug at my heartstrings, and did make me laugh because these are all relatable and real human situations that we all can go through. So I do, want to add that I think you're how much you're gonna like this movie, and how much you're gonna relate to it, and really really enjoy it is probably gonna depend on what your situation is, personally, which most movies are, but this one in particular too, I think will really depend on that. But yeah, for me, overall, this movie definitely worked. It wasn't a perfect film, but a lot of it did work for me, and I did enjoy this film. But like I said, not everything with this film worked for me. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, more on the mixed side, is that this film doesn't really reinvent the wheel in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of typical romantic tropes, from romance movies that happen in this film. So in that sense, there's nothing about this movie that we haven't already seen before in other films. So I do feel like that did hold it back a little bit for me because of the fact that it did have such a good cast with two incredible main leads. Not really doing anything that is too much different from any other movies that have come before. A little disappointing. Nothing. Definitely not my worst negative of the film, but a little disappointing for sure. And then I did talk about it before that the story plays out in a non-linear fashion and kind of jumps back and forth in time to tell its story. Um, in the first half of the film, I do feel like there was quite a few instances where it was pretty jarring. The moments in which they chose to jump back in time for. And then also, I do feel like they did kind of a bad job of, having tells in the scenes when we jumped back in time. There were certain moments, obviously, where like, there would be a time where she was pregnant and everything, and obviously that would be noticeable that we were going back. But then there were other times where, like, it took a couple minutes into a scene for me to realize, like, oh, wait, we jumped back in time. And that was mostly in the first half. I feel like in the second half we didn't really have much of that issue. But yeah, that was just something that kind of bothered me, and the editing with it. And when we would jump back, it would kind of abruptly cut a scene in the present, and then go ahead and jump back, and then I wouldn't realize that we did that. So I did feel like that was a little bit of a problem for me. And then the final thing that I was mixed on, and it was kind of the biggest one for me, was that there was some character decisions and motivations that just really did not add up for me. I don't know if that was because certain storylines maybe were cut down a little bit just because they wanted to keep a certain runtime. But I won't get into spoilers or anything. But there were just certain decisions that some characters made in the back half of the film that I just really didn't understand, and really just to me didn't feel like the natural progression for the character that they had set up in the first half of the film. So that did bother me just a little bit. So. But like I said, overall, guys, I am positive on the film. I think it's a very good movie. I just feel like there were some things that were holding it back from being a great movie. So yeah, on a rating scale, I would probably give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And like I said, these two pretty much made the movie for me. To me, they were the glue. They made it all work. Even when I thought something still didn't, I still enjoyed myself because of the two leads' performances. And I think if they would have had actors of less caliber than Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, this movie would have actually probably been a lot worse than it was. So yeah, guys, if you've seen We Live in Time, go ahead and comment, let me know what you thought, and have a great night.